And now we're going to look at social and economic reform in Britain. Our learning objectives are to describe the social and economic reforms that took place in Britain between 1814 and 1914. In the early 1800s, supporters of free trade, or trade without restrictions, pushed to eliminate protective tariffs. Remember, tariffs are taxes on imported goods. And a protective tariff is a tariff that is designed to make people choose domestic made products over foreign made products by placing a tax, making the imported products more expensive. Free traders agreed with the ideas of Adam Smith that a policy of laissez-faire, meaning let alone, would increase prosperity for all. So they felt that the government should try to stay out of trade and allow international trade without restrictions. Several tariffs were repealed in the 1820s. However, intense debate erupted over the Corn Laws, which imposed high tariffs on imported grain. In Britain, corn refers to all cereal grains, such as wheat, barley, and oats. Farmers supported the law, but free traders wanted Parliament to repeal or cancel the Corn Laws. In 1846, they were repealed, but many new tariffs were implemented in the late 1800s during tough economic times. During the 1700s, the Enlightenment thinkers drew attention to the evils of slavery. Under pressure from middle-class reformers in Britain, France, and the United States, the abolition movement, or the campaign against slavery and the slave trade, took off. In 1807, Britain became the first European power to abolish the slave trade, and in 1833 it banned slavery in all British colonies. Other reforms were aimed at the criminal justice system. In the early 1800s, more than 200 crimes were punishable by death. Such capital offenses included not only murder, but also shoplifting, sheep stealing, and impersonating an army veteran. Some juries refused to convict people because the penalties were so harsh, and executions were public events. Some reformers began to reduce the number of capital offenses, and by 1850, the death penalty was reserved for murder, piracy, treason, and arson. Many petty criminals were transferred to penal colonies, or settlements for convicts in the new British territories of Australia and New Zealand. And in 1868, Parliament ended public hangings. Gradually, Parliament began to pass laws that improved the working conditions in factories and mines. In 1842, mine owners were forbidden to employ women or children under the age of 10. An 1847 law limited women and children to a 10-hour workday. Later in the 1800s, the government regulated many safety conditions in factories and mines and sent inspectors to see that the laws were enforced. Other laws set minimum wages and maximum hours of work. Labor unions were made legal in 1825, but going on strike remained illegal until later in the century. Despite the restrictions, unions grew and won new rights. In 1900, socialist and union members backed the formation of a new political party, which became known as the Labour Party. The Labour Party grew in power and membership until it surpassed the Liberal Party in 1920, becoming one of the two major parties in Britain. In the early 1900s, Britain began to pass social welfare laws to protect the well-being of the poor. They protected workers with accident, health, unemployment insurance, as well as old age pensions. One important outcome of the reforms is that it limited the influence of Marxists. In the early 1900s, Emmeline Pankhurst, a leading suffragist, had become convinced that only aggressive tactics would bring victory to women seeking the vote. Some women turned to violence and other radical tactics to push for the vote. Pankhurst said that such tactics were necessary. Women over 30 were finally granted the vote in 1918. The Irish never accepted British rule. They bitterly resented settlers, especially absentee landlords, who owned large estates but did not live on them. Many Irish peasants lived in desperate poverty while paying high rents to landlords living in England. In addition, the Irish, many of whom were Catholic, had to pay tithes to support the Church of England. Irish nationalists campaigned vigorously for freedom and justice during the 1800s. Daniel O'Connell was nicknamed the Liberator as he struggled to get Ireland for the Irish. Slowly, under pressure from O'Connell and other nationalists, Parliament granted some reforms. Most of Ireland's farmland was used to grow crops that were exported. Potatoes were the main source of food for the Irish. Blight, or a disease that struck the potato crops hard in 1845, but most of the crops were still exported. Thousands of penniless tenants lost their farms, and the human suffering was great. About 1 million starved to death. Bitterness increased after the famine. Some Irish militants formed the Fenian Brotherhood to try to liberate Ireland by force. Moderates found a leader in Charles Stewart Parnell. He rallied Irish members of Parliament to press for Home Rule, or local self-government. Parliament finally passed a Home Rule bill in 1914, but delayed its implementation because of World War I.